everybody. Welcome again to Heal Your Shadow Relationships. I'm your host, Neola Sparkus, and we have with us today the wonderful Rhonda Britten. I am so honored to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I mean, what better conversation than the shadow?
Only the shadow knows. So I'm going to tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Perfect.
Rhonda Britten is an Emmy Award winner. She is a repeat Oprah guest. She speaks at TEDx. She is a regular contributor to Huffington Post. She has devoted her life to helping you master the fears that keep holding you back. She has changed lives in over 600, oh my God, 600 episodes of reality television. That is amazing. She is the author of 4 bestsellers, including her worldwide hit, Fearless Living, translated in over 15 languages, and is the founder of Fearless Living Institute. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here, Rhonda, and for speaking about how to heal our shadow relationships.
It is actually so important. I mean, it's what is fear, right? Fear is it creates the shadow. It has a relationship to the shadow. It is one with the shadow, right? So it is such critical work.
It is. And I read your story, and my goodness, you had such a particularly intense experience when you were a teen. I just can't even imagine. And it caused you to especially get very intimate with that shadow side of life. So are you willing to share with us a little bit about that story?
Absolutely, absolutely. What you're talking about is the event that happened when I was 14 years old. And, I think we all think that I don't know, when you're growing up, I think what you do is you want to believe you're in a normal household, right? I think we all do that. There's nothing wrong with my household. Nothing's wrong, right? And so I was kind of that frame of mind. I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. I thought this was all normal and until it wasn't. And that happened on Father's Day when I was 14 years old. And my father and mother were in the middle of being separated, getting a divorce. And coming over for Father's Day, taking us out to brunch, and instead of taking us out to brunch, he took out a gun and started screaming at my mother, "You made me do this, you made me do this," and shot her once. And I was the only witness. I was the only one standing outside with my father and my mother, and I started screaming, "Dad, what are you doing?" And he cocked the gun and he pointed it at me, and I absolutely, every cell in my being knew that I was dead. Without a shadow of a doubt, I was dead. And my mother, who already had been shot once, literally with her arms around her, just literally with her last breath, looked up and saw my father with that gun in my face and screamed out, "No." My father, realizing my mother wasn't dead, took that gun that bullet intended for me, and shot my mother a second time. And that second bullet went out my mother's abdomen and went through her abdomen, out her back, and landed in the car horn. And for the next 20 minutes, all I heard was, and then my father came running over right next to me, went down on his knees, put the gun to his head, and fired. So within a matter of a couple minutes, I was the sole witness of watching my father murder my mother and commit suicide in front of me. Now, that was horrific, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yet, I'm okay. I'll be okay. I remember telling people right after that I'm fine, right? And, you hear people afterwards talk about, like, when, tragedies happen to people, you hear people on the news going, "The kids are doing great," and 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 I think to myself, no, they're not doing great. They're just shut down. It's not safe. They don't know how to feel. They don't know what to feel, and they literally just shut down. And so for the next 20 years, and I do mean 20 years, I basically lived 2 lives. One, I was a straight A student, high school, president, lead scorer on my basketball team, sang the solos, went to college on a full ride scholarship, lost it after a semester because I couldn't keep it up because of the pressure and I was losing my mind. And then, so on one hand, I was like, everything's fine. But on the inside, all I did was beat myself up, put myself down, negate myself, think something's wrong with me. Why didn't I save my mother? Why didn't I stop my father? It's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. And for 20 years, and I think this is true for many people that lose people close to them or have some sort of tragedy in their lives, is that they wonder what they could have done, right? You're haunted by that memory of what you could have done. I have a client who lost his father after knee surgery, and 2 days later he had a heart attack. And of course, he had left his father that morning and traveling back home. His father has a heart attack that afternoon. He's haunted with, like, what if I would have stayed with my father? I left too soon. We're haunted by these memories. And so that really, the shadow and what I call fear really ran my life for 20 years after that. And a series of events happened, obviously, that helped me and supported me to move beyond that. But it really made every decision for me, because I didn't trust myself to be rebellious against it, and I think that's one of the big things is we don't, I know that I see this in my clients all the time, and people that I talk to, we want to think that we trust ourselves, but we really don't trust ourselves.
So is that something that you teach now? I know that after that experience, after you healed yourself of it, and I would love to know exactly how on earth do you find your way through something like that?
Well, it definitely wasn't easy. I mean, in those 20 years, I tried to kill myself 3 times. I used alcohol. I had relationships, let's just say, that were compromising. And I didn't deserve I didn't believe I deserved to be happy. Because how can you be happy if your mother's dead? And how can you be happy if you witness your father murdering your mother? I mean, how do you dare be happy?
Right.
And it was really a series of events. It was really one of my first major points was my third suicide attempt. And I'm in the psychiatric ward, oh, by the way, because that's what happens to you when you try to kill yourself 3 times. They eventually put you in for evaluation. And I'm in evaluation, and they deem me not crazy. And my older sister Cindy, came to visit me in the psychiatric ward, and I was literally I was in a lockdown cell. I was in a psychiatric ward, like lockdown facility, a straitjacket right there in case I lost it. The bed, the room was, I mean, it was so tiny. And my sister, squeezed in there and sat next to me. And I remember her looking at me, and I realized that she had given up on me. 3 suicide attempts. When do you go? Maybe this is just the way she is.
Yeah.
And so I go home from that event, from that psychiatric ward. They let me out. And I remember going home to my apartment all by myself. Oh, by the way, not a good idea. And I remember realizing nobody's coming to save me. Nobody's coming. And I've got to figure this out. Now, mind you, I had gone to therapy. I'd gone to workshops. I'd read books. I'm a smart girl. I'd been reading self-help since I was 12. So, I mean, I had done so many things to try to help myself. But I think that's what the insidious nature of the fear is, i.e. how it shows up on our shadow side, is it's such an insidious part of ourselves. We have a difficult time separating ourselves from it. And it feels like it's more real than our true nature. It feels more real than our essential nature, what I call it. It feels more real than, our soul. It feels more real. And so I literally decided that day, I'll never forget it, I decided that day that nobody was coming to save me and I had to save myself. And everything I'd learned up to that point, it was nice information, it was good, it probably all got me somewhere, don't get me wrong, but nothing made sense, nothing was cohesive, nothing put it all together, everything I learned kind of like this competed with that competed, wait a minute, and everything wasn't comprehensive and integrated.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so that's when I fell in love with fear, because I realized fear was at the heart of all my problems. Fear was at the heart of all my acting out. Fear was at the heart of, what many people call the shadow, right? Fear is at the heart of that. So I decided to become, again, it wasn't conscious, like I'm now going to become an expert at fear, but I basically just followed the thread of my life. I just followed the thread. And I just kept on unfolding and unfolding and unfolding, and recognized that when you really get down to it, when you really take away the worry, you don't worry if you don't have worry, if you don't have fear. You don't have shame if you don't have fear. You don't have stress if you don't have fear. Like fear was at the heart of it all. And instead of dealing with all these so-called problems, it's like, no, let's get to the heart. Let's really do this, because I've been living like this for 20 years. My parents were only alive for 14, and I'm living like this for 20. No more. And I really just went to work at changing my life.
So that sounds like a dark night of the soul experience. You know, you're at your third suicide and your sister's looking at you like, I don't think she's going to come through this. And in a way, she almost did you a service.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
she empowered you. And I think that's so important that you make the decision that you are the one that is going to save yourself, because ultimately that's the only person that who can ever save ourselves. And so you found your inner power, whether you knew to call it that or not.
Sure. And I think that's the thing. It's like so many of us don't know what to call it, right? You know, I just was talking to a client this morning, actually, having a private session, and she's in an addictive relationship, in her words, she's codependent in her words. And I was like, let's take all the labels off. Like, what if you just have an unmet need? And what if you don't know how to meet it? And what if you just want love? And what if, so breaking apart all the shame and all the labeling and just talking about the heart of what it means to be human. And we all have needs. And I don't know about you, Neola, I was never taught about needs, never taught how to take care of my needs, not learn how to identify them, right?
Same here.
Right? Like needs, what are you talking about? I grew up upper Michigan, upper Minnesota, Finnish, okay? And if you know anything about the Finnish population, we don't feel.
Yes, exactly. Everything in the head. Well, I grew up Midwest, Chicago, Lithuanian, which is same neck of the woods. So.
That's right. You're just a little south of me, like 14 hours. You were like in Bahamas.
Yeah, Chicago, Bahamas,
Hey, upper Michigan, when you have 365 inches of snow, Chicago's warm.
So this is what motivated you to create your Fearless Living method. And after you wrote the book Fearless Living, you also wrote Fearless Loving, which is what we want to be talking about here today. So maybe you can tell us some of the highlights of what you teach when it comes to fearless loving and how to conquer fear in our relationships.
Well, I think you brought it up a minute ago about, the only love that saves us is ourselves, right? That's true. I agree 100%. And there is an opening through other people. And, I really believe that if somebody hadn't loved me before I loved myself, I probably wouldn't have had the courage to love me. Like I had evidence that other people loved me. I didn't know why. I thought they were crazy and they were stupid and, you're whatever. But somebody was trying to love me, And so, they say you can't love, you can't really believe you're loved or have love until you love yourself. And yes, ultimately, in the big scheme of things, there's some truth in that, of course. But I do believe that any amount of love that we receive from anyone around us, whether it's an intimate relationship with its family, friend, a colleague, whether it's kindness, niceness, civility, whatever it is movement towards opening our heart. And one of the main components of even having the courage to do this is a word that I use on a regular basis and a word that I absolutely love. And is a swear word for some people, especially perfectionists. And this word is gentle. I talk about being gentle with yourself, because when you're talking about love with another human being and even with yourself, you are talking about the exposure of the belly, right? The exposure of our vulnerability, the exposure of, can you love me now if I'm like this? Can you love me if I tell you I don't agree? Can you love me if I don't like how you did something? Can you love me if I don't like your car? Can you love me still, right? And I've just seen over and over again that most people grew up like me and were basically told to compromise themselves because that's the only way to have love. Like you have to be somebody different, right? You have to put on that wheel of fear, what I call the wheel of fear. You have to put on the fear. You can't have needs, and if you have needs, then you're needy, and then blah, blah, who wants to be around that?
Right,
And
right.
and so there's this whole discombobulation about what we're even taught about love and who we have to be to give and receive love. So fear has its way with us so often in our loving relationships because we think we're doing the right thing. And again, we read all these books. I mean, trust me, I've read every book on love possible. And you read these books on love and it's like, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. Oh, you can't do it. Hey, ho, ho. And you're like, and you're just like, and it is right. Am I
You
true?
you 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 just so acted that out perfectly. The anxiety, we don't know where we're going, we don't know what to do. Too much advice from all different
Yes.
directions.
Should I pick up the text or should I wait a day? Should I wait? Should I call him? Wait, I shouldn't call him. Wait, I'm going to be the man then. Wait, you're going to be the. Oh, what the? Wait, but wait, I do want to be. It's just like, wait a minute. Don't get me wrong. We need some of those skills. Don't get me wrong. There's great skills and all that stuff. And who are we when we're not in fear? Who are we when the shadow doesn't have its way with us? As you use the word shadow and I use the word fear. Who are we really? My motto is, if you're not being true to yourself, you won't believe you're loved anyway. The only way you can feel love truly is if you're being true to yourself. And then the love from other people, you go, oh, okay, they do love me, right? Otherwise, we just make it up. So I bring in the word gentle. Another word I bring up on a regular basis is the word compassion. Without compassion, it'll be hard to expose your belly.
That's a great way of putting it. That's perfect. And you just bring up such an important question. It's like, who are you truly without your fear? How do you help people to get in touch with who they really are? I mean, so many of us walk around with our masks. We don't even know it's a mask. We don't know we're coming from fear. We might not feel the fear.
Absolutely. And you bring up such an incredible point. And it's actually the first point, like when I go and do a speaking event for 2,000 people or what, the first words out of my mouth when I'm on stage is, I bet you don't think you have any fear, or, what fear do you have? And, people are like, that's nice fear. That's for those people, not for me. And I go, okay, great. Let's just take a test. Let's just be crazy and take a test. Okay. So I ask people, do you worry? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you procrastinate? Are you a perfectionist? Do you get irritated? Are you impatient? Right? And I go on. I mean, I read like 80 words. And I ask people, to kind of take note of, oh God, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that. So what I've discovered in the way that I work with fear is that most people that think they have multiple problems, right? They procrastinate and they're perfectionists. Oh, and then they have too much stress and they don't sleep well and they get overwhelmed. And then they also have a self-esteem issue, but wait, they have a self-worth issue. So now we just add the problems up, right? There's just this problem and that problem and this problem and that problem. And what I like to say, the way that I think of fear and the way that I work with fear with my clients, is all of that are just symptoms of fear. Those aren't the fear itself. So you're worried, that's a symptom of fear. It's called a fear response in the world of Rhonda Britten. It's called a fear response. Overwhelm is a fear response. Impatience is a fear response. Oh, by the way, giving too much is a fear response. Oh, by the way, volunteering when you need to be taking care of yourself is a fear response, right? Going for things that really don't serve your heart is a fear response. So most people actually are creating their entire lives through their fear responses.
Wow.
Because our fear responses are trying to help us stay safe.
Yes. Yes.
And they're there for a gosh darn good reason.
Yes.
And fear is so tricky. It's insidious. It is invisible. Literally, you cannot taste, touch it, or, just sense it. So you actually do think you're a procrastinator. You actually do think you're a perfectionist. You actually do think you get stressed too easy. You actually believe that about yourself. Instead of saying, wait a minute, I'm overwhelmed. That means I'm having a fear response. Oh, I'm worried. Oh, that's a fear response. Got it. I'm in doubt. Oh, fear response. Got it. Right? So all of our feelings, all of our values, even integrity, all of our lovely values we hold can be used in service to fear of freedom. So I believe that there's one core fear. And that this core fear kind of, if you think of a plant, kind of shoots up like flowers, like leaves, and it creates all those problems that people have. And then people come to us because they have these problems, right? I'm a procrastinator. I've got to get more efficient. A perfectionist. Help me quit, right? But that's just a symptom, and I rarely even worry about that. I just go right towards the fear, and as they build a relationship with their fear, these things just die on the vine. So many of us just keep on moving from problem to problem to problem. Oh, now I'm not a perfectionist anymore. Awesome, I did that. Okay, wait, now I'm more stressful. Okay, wait, I gotta solve that. Now I gotta procrastinate. It doesn't have to be that way, because your fear will always create new problems. And if you don't see fear for what it is, it's just going to keep creating problems, and you keep thinking you are wrong, bad, not good enough. And that's just not true. And I know you know that. It's like, it's just not true. So I hope people identify their core fear, what that number one fear is, so that they can build a relationship with it. And then I also help them identify their wheel of freedom, which is the good part, and their essential nature, so they know how to move through their fear effortlessly, easily, with grace, and be able to pop out whenever they want.
This is so freaking brilliant. I have no other ways of saying it. To even think that giving can be a fear response, to even think that some of the positive things we do, and I think of what we do in relationship, taking care of the other person more than I take care of myself. That's a fear response.
There's no one to love if you're not there.
Right. And right? Then and what else do people do in relationship that can be thought of as a fear response that they don't even know that this is a fear response?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just like you said, giving too much, giving too little, not sharing what you want, your needs. Sharing your needs is a huge opportunity in an intimate relationship. It is one of the ways that you connect. Yes. And we pretend we don't have needs, or we cut off our needs, or we think we label them as needy, and then we just completely ignore them. And then all of a sudden we're feeling less than, and we're feeling disconnected from ourselves because we've disconnected our needs.
Right.
The words that we don't say, the things that we don't speak, the requests that we don't make, the saying no to things or saying yes to things. No, I don't actually want to go to visit your family this Christmas. Not really interested in that. We did it the last 3 years. Not interested. Oh no, it's got to happen. So we're constantly afraid of holding our space and being in that relationship as ourselves, because we think, fear tells us, that we have to, and again, not everybody thinks this exact thing, but many people think they have to pay for love. They have to compromise for love. They can't have everything they want when it comes to love. It's selfish if they do that. Who do they think they are? And so there's this whole, I can't be me and have love too.
Right. And they try to make love happen rather than, that's another fear response, trying to make it happen, choosing this person, because they have the right package.
Yes.
And that's, I might say the fear behind that is thinking that you can't have what you really need.
Well, and you don't trust yourself to get it yourself.
Yeah.
How many women do we know that really don't trust themselves to make money, or trust themselves to care for themselves in any really major way, and really feel, I have friends, really good friends, that if they're not in relationship, they're literally starving for the next one. They're literally like, I gotta get a relationship, because they don't know how to survive, because there's no sense of, connection. Again, nothing wrong with wanting a relationship. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
But it's if it's like you have to have it or you're gonna die, then you know that's a fear response. If you're doing it out of desperation, like my client this morning, when she was talking about I'm codependent, I'm la la la, she was saying I'm so desperate. I'm just the time is ticking, and I've got to get married right now, or I'm going to miss my chance. It's like desperate's really attractive, not right.
That's number one. Number two, that's not love. You can create
That's not.
you
That's
can
not.
create a relationship based on desperation, but where will it get you?
Well, it's just going to keep you right. It's going to keep you in a fear-based relationship, and you are making agreements,
Right.
verbal, nonverbal. You're making agreements, and then the next 20 years you have to abide by those agreements because that was the agreement.
Yes.
You know, again, said or not said, it is the agreement. And so you then, when you want to get divorced or you want to leave, guilt, shame, whatever, because you never entered the relationship freely and with your heart.
There you go. That's just perfect. And so you say the solution is to create a relationship with your fear. So how do we create a relationship with our fear?
Well, first thing to know is that fear really does have a job, and it is there to keep you safe, and it absolutely adores and loves you. Like it loves you.
That's
And
interesting.
it loves you, right? It loves you. Fear loves you. It's so funny because, we're taught that, if you're spiritual, you're taught everything is of God, right? But then we have all these other things that aren't of God. It's like, well, wait a minute. Didn't fear Isn't fear part of our makeup? Isn't that part of our amygdala? If it's part of our biology. And yes, we have instincts, i.e., physical survival, but there's also the brain. Oh, by the way, the brain doesn't know the difference between physical and emotional fear. It also doesn't know the difference between the past and the present. It doesn't know the difference between imaginary and real at all. And that is the way our brain works. Our brain also doesn't know, or I should say, has been handed down from our DNA the fears of our parents, our grandparents, and our great grandparents, etc. So you have fears that you don't even know why you have them. Okay? So that's the other thing. People like go, I've got to find the reason I have this fear. No, you don't. It may be handed down from your great grandfather and you don't have any relationship to it. You're just having this anxiety and this worry and this fear. So the first thing to recognize is that fear has a job, and fear is there to keep you safe. So that's the first kind of mindset to get into. Second is that, like I said a minute ago, fear loves you and it just really wants to do the right thing by you. It just thinks that you're 5 years old or 3 years old or 12 years old, and it doesn't think that you got it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to re-educate our fear, and we have to basically raise fear up, and we have to educate ourselves on how we act out in fear and how we respond to fear. So what I help people do is I help them identify their wheel of fear, their unique wheel of fear. Your wheel of fear is going to be different than mine. And you have a unique trigger, what I call a trigger, a unique core negative feeling, unique fear responses. And like I said, many people get love from their fear responses. And so when you start naming your fear responses and it's like, oh, I give here and I do this. It's like, yeah, not that you can't give, but how much are you giving out of fear that they're going to reject you or, cut out, or, you won't belong, or you won't fit in, or, your pain. So many of our fear responses were pain for love, pain through our own soul for that connection. So what I help people do is I help them identify their wheel of fear, and like I said a minute ago, identify their wheel of freedom so that they can move from one to the other effortlessly. And that's the work I do at Fearless Living Institute, is to support you in starting to really understand your unique fear. Because trust me, like I said, fear is insidious, it is invisible, it is tricky, and it is as smart as you are, as spiritual as you are, as educated as you are, as knowledgeable as you are, as wise as you are. So the more you know, the more it knows. That's why you see spiritual people who are, how many people do I know that meditate an hour a day and consider themselves spiritual but can't get themselves out of a paper bag? Can't really have an intimate, loving relationship. Too many, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many people do you know that, do self-help and personal development or great leaders, but again, can't do the things that they really want, that are yearning in their heart. Again, because fear is having its way with them, because fear uses everything you know. So it will use your spirituality against you. It will use your leadership skills against you. It will use everything you know.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Rhonda, you just make so much sense. Oh my goodness. I could see it, and you know fear intimately. Nobody knows it better than you. So,
In fear are just like this.
yes, sounds like you've got a great relationship with your fears.
Well, I do, because, it doesn't stop. That's the thing that I think also the fallacy is that people think you get your fear because they think I got my wheel of fear because my father killed my mother. I got my wheel of fear way before then. And there is no one event that creates your fear, not one event. You don't even know how your fear was created, I guarantee you, because it happened moment by moment by moment by moment by moment, and there's not one moment. So fear is way smarter and trickier than that. So one of the things that is a real opportunity is start recognizing that the search for the moment is actually wasted energy on your part. And instead, let's deal with what is and start moving into who I am. Who I am, going back to the conversation how we started this part, is who are you when you're true to yourself? Who are you when you take off the mask of fear? Who are you? What is your yearnings? What are your desires? What do you want to make happen in your life? What is that passion that's attempting to burst forth? What is that purpose that is yearning to be expressed, right? Because we all have one. We're all here for a purpose. So, what is that thing that fear says, can't do that, don't know how to do that, can't write a book, can't, right? Can't fall in love, can't be with a rich man, I'm too heavy, don't make enough money, can't be with this kind of person.
Limitation, limitation, limitation. Yeah.
Again, it's all so seductive that it's really hard to tell the difference.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that's the thing. People say, "Oh, it's my belief system." It's like, okay, we can talk about beliefs all day long, but if you don't understand how it relates to fear, it's just going to have other beliefs replace it.
Yes.
I don't know too many people that go, I am now facing my belief. It's like, oh, okay, good for you. Now,
Yeah, how
did
does
that
that
change?
look? Yeah. And how
How does
does your
that look?
life look? Yeah.
Right. And if you want to shift your belief, you actually have to walk through fear.
Yes,
That's the
absolutely.
thing.
Because we're all too scared to shift who we think we are.
Well, because we think this is who we are.
Yeah.
We actually believe that we are the sum parts of our actions in the past. We actually believe that we are what we've done. We actually believe what people have told us. We actually believe that. Now, secretly, some of us don't want to believe, like, oh, I'm not like that. We have this faint, like, hope, right? But in the dark night of the soul, when we're sitting on the couch crying, or when we're, why am I doing this again? It's like, maybe this is just who I am. Maybe this is just my lot in life.
Mm. So, Rhonda, I'm so grateful for your time. And I know that all of our viewers really want to know more. We feel your passion for what you do. And so, right down here below the video, we've got your website, rhondabritton.com. And we also have a link for a wonderful giveaway that you're giving called Getting Your Needs Met. It's a 2-hour audio program. You want to talk a little bit about what people will get if they click on that link?
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to do Getting Your Needs Met and gift this to your community because, as I said earlier in our talk, needs are one of the number one ways fear shows up. And we don't even recognize our needs. I mean, like I said, I didn't recognize my needs. I didn't even know I had needs, until I really started understanding fear. So I wanted to gift Getting Your Needs Met because, one, in order to really break fear, I want you to be able to see them. So I'm going to actually talk you through in 2 hours. We're actually going to do a workshop. I want you to have a notebook. You're going to have worksheets. You're going to be able to access the worksheets. You're going to access the audio. You'll be able to watch the video, download the audio, download the transcript and the worksheets, and really do the work of getting your needs met. And not only getting your needs met, but I'm also going to show you how to get them met. So not only identify them, but actually how to talk about them, how to have a conversation about them. So you're going to have some worksheets to support you in actually having different conversations with those people that you love. And those people might be your colleagues or your boss about some work things, and it might be your intimate partner, and it might be your children, it might be you.
Well, that sounds extremely powerful. So I know everybody's going to want to click on that link and do that. So Rhonda, again, wow, we could just go on and on about this. I could see that you have so much to say about it, and you have really a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, a lot of passion to help us all. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate your kindness and letting me talk. And I'm knowing that love is available to each one of us, and that love is available to you and to me, and that fear doesn't have to run our love's lives, that we can run it, and it can be magical, mysterious, and really potent. And all you have to do is start being true to yourself and not let fear win. So thank you very much for having me, Neola, and be fearless, everyone.
Perfect way to end it. I have nothing more to say. Bye.